Chapter 10 Heat by Mike Lupica. It was top of the fourth inning. Manny pointed to Justin. He may be as pretty as Brad Pitt, Manny said, but the boy can pitch. Like mad pitch, Kel said. Justin having struck him out twice now. Michael was used to the way Kel talked by now and how his cool way of talking seemed to influence the other guys on the team. And Maria, too. So, mad with him was a way of amping up whatever word came out next. Maria was mad good looking. Michael had like a mad arm. Chris Rock, who Michael only got to see in the movies, never on TV, was mad funny. Like what? Before, Anthony Theoro said now. We thought the guy was just mad. Period. Dude, Kel said, using another one of his favorite words. One he could make into a question, an exclamation point. Show surprise with anger, anything. Sometimes, like now, he used it at the end of the conversation as if saying, case closed on old Justin. Michael didn't need to look at the scoreboard to know that he was the only one in the Clippers Justin hadn't struck out yet. Michael was batting third today. Justin had come up and in on him his first time up, knocking Michael back off the plate and then glaring at him again afterwards. But Michael had gotten back into the left-hander side of the batter's box, dug back in, and promptly taken a low outside pitch over the third baseman's head and into the left field corner of the cool ballpark, the ball rolling all the way to a Home Depot sign out there. As Michael came flying around second, he saw their left fielder having trouble picking up the ball and just kept motoring into third, cap flying off his head. Stand up triple. Are you always this lucky? Justin said when he got the ball back. Michael ignored him, thinking, I've never talked to a base runner in my life. Instead, he turned to Mr. Mignon, who was coaching third. But Justin was still talking. Now Michael heard him say, Great job out there. Michael wondered what that meant until he turned back around and saw Justin pointing to his left fielder, yelling at him in front of everybody for the crime of giving Michael an extra base. The kid out there just got into his ready defensive position, like he was studying the grass at his feet or some kind of test later. On the first pitch to Anthony, who was up next, Justin tried to throw the ball about 200 miles per hour and bounced the ball in front of his catcher, who had absolutely no chance to even block the ball. It rolled all the way to the backstop, and Michael could have walked home backwards, with the Clippers' first run of the game. This time when Justin the jerk got the ball back, he snapped at his catcher. Get in front of the stupid ball. To the catcher's credit, he said, with what? The snack truck? Their coach stepped right out on that one and wagged their finger at the catcher, not Justin. Hey, Brendan, the coach said. Just catch. Manny said, That's not just any coach. That's Justin's old man. I guarantee it. Westchester South tied it off, and Anthony in the bottom of the fourth. Justin's double with 2 outs. The later came around to score when Anthony walked the next 3 hitters. Then the same thing happened to Justin at the top of the fifth. He started walking guys all over the place. He's lost the strike zone, Manny said on the bench, using one of Mr. Minyon's favorite expressions, losing the strike zone. It made Michael smile, the way a lot of old-time baseball expressions did. Sometimes he imagined a whole team on their hands and knees searching for the strike zone, the way the Clippers did one time when Anthony lost one of his contact lenses. It began when Justin walked Maria on 4 pitches, even though she hadn't made contact with the ball the whole time. A girl. They were afraid on the bench it would make Justin's head explode. So it was no surprise when he walked the next hitter, Cal, on 5 pitches. Then, with Justin's face getting redder and redder with each ball out of the strike zone, even whining to the umpire a couple of times on the pitches that weren't even close, he walked Manny to load the bases. Michael was up again. Out went 3-0, and all three of the pitches high and wide. Brendan, the catcher, Michael, could see out of the corner of his eye. Twice had to make diving backhand catches to keep Maria at third base. The coach, who they were sure now was Justin's dad, stood up in front of the bench. Just relax and throw strikes, he said. Michael stepped out and smiled. He couldn't help himself. It was always the dumbest thing he heard from the coach in any game. Relax and throw strikes. Right. He looked out and see some 11 or 12-year-old pitcher about to squeeze the seams off the ball, about to start crying because he couldn't throw a strike to save his life, and the coach would think the perfect thing to say was, "Relax, throw strikes." Justin thought Michael was laughing at him. "You think this is funny?" Justin yelled in at him. "Huh?" Michael said. "Just pitch, son," the umpire said. "He's laughing at me," Justin said. "No, I'm not," Michael said. "The ump said play ball." Justin went into the full windup and threw a fastball that hit Michael in the head. The first thing Michael saw when he opened his eyes was the worried face of Manny Cabrera, close enough to Michael that he could smell the Orbit bubble mint gum his friend was constantly chomping on. "I know you think this is what heaven looks like," Manny said, "but you're not dead." Mr. Minion was crouched next to Manny. Standing behind them, Michael could see Cal, Maria, and Anthony. Chris Norris, their third baseman. "He sat up now," Mr. Minion said slowly. Michael said, "I'm okay." "Okay then," Mr. Minion said. Michael realized his helmet was gone. "Where'd it get me?" he said, because he honestly couldn't remember. He just remembered the ball coming for his eyeballs, turning away, hearing the ball on his helmet and hitting the deck. Manny said, "Tip of the helmet." "The bill," Mr. Minion said. "Check it out," Manny said. He held up Michael's batting helmet for him to see. The bill was all crooked now, as if one of the wheels of their old bus had rolled over it. Mr. Minion said, "How's the head?" Manny said hard, obviously convinced that everything was going to be all right now that Michael was up and talking. "It doesn't hurt, actually," Michael said. "I can't believe they didn't throw that puss out of the game," Manny said. Mr. Minion said. His dad pointed out that since he couldn't hit the catcher's glove when he wanted to, how could he hit Michael's head? "But he thought Michael was laughing at him," Manny said. "Hush," Mr. Minion said. Miraculously, Manny did. "Now," Mr. Minion said, "Mike, I'm going to take you out." "No," Michael said. It came out of him with more force than he intended. Mr. Minion put a hand on his shoulder. "I know what a gamer you are," he said, "but you just took the hardest fastball I've seen this season, next to yours, in the coconut." "Helmet," Michael said. The truth was, his head did hurt, but only around his forehead, where the helmet had must have scraped him as Justin's high hard one was twisted it around. "Please let me stay in," Michael said. "Hey, guys," they all heard now. Michael turned and saw the umpire standing over him. He didn't look much older than Carlos, but he had been doing a good job calling balls and strikes, and hustling down to first when there was a ground ball. Since he was working alone, some of the umps they ran into acted as if they didn't want to be there, and if they were just going through the motion until they got paid and got out of there. This ump, Michael could see, cared about the game, doing things right. Michael always picked up on that right away. A passion for baseball, like they were wearing a sign. The ump hunched down next to him. "You okay?" "Yes, sir." "Is he staying in, Mr. Minion?" Mr. Minion looked at Michael, then at the umpire. "He is." Then he helped Michael to his feet. The Westchester South parents clapped. Maria, who had scored on the play, handed Michael her batting helmet, since in Little League you had to wear a helmet on the bases. Justin, soft-tossed with his third baseman to stay warm, didn't even turn around. "Please, pretty please, tell me that punk is going down," Manny said, his voice low. "Oh, he's going down," Michael said, and jogged down to first base. He missed the first two pitches at the bottom of the sixth, the Clippers still holding on to the 2-1 lead. "Maybe I'm having a delayed reaction," he thought, going behind the mound to rub up on the baseball they'd been using for the 3 innings. He had been beamed. He could never understand that expression either. Did that mean your head was a bean or a ball? Even now, following the twists and turns of English made him feel like he was trying to read one of those subway maps they had on the walls of the train. Now all this Now all his teammates cared about was if he was going to being Justin or not. Manny had just come out to remind him Justin was up on third in the 3rd inning. "Go," Michael said. "Catch." "Go," Manny said. "Sit, Manny. You ever noticed you talk to me like I'm a dog sometimes?" When Manny got halfway back to the plate, Michael couldn't help it. "Good boy," he said. Then he threw 3 straight blazers. The guy swung and missed at all of them. 1 out. 3 more to the second guy. The kid, the black kid who seemed to be smiling the whole game, whether things were going good for his team or not, was walking back to the bench where the ump even called strike three. 2 outs. Justin now. Manny called time. Anthony came in from first, Kel from short, Chris Norris from third. Moran stayed on second, saying to Michael, "You guys just doing your guy thing? I'm fine here." Manny said, "You owe the sucker one." Kel said, "Check it out. You could hit the next three of those suckers and still win the game." Anthony, who never came to the mound mostly because he didn't need to when Michael was pitching, took off his cap, rubbed a hand over his new buzz cut, and grinned. "Buzz him," he said. The ump, Michael saw, had come out in front of the plate to stand with his hands on his hip. "How about we save the rest of this for the instant messaging later?" They all laughed. The ump turned and walked back to the plate. As he did, Michael saw Mr. Minya get off the bench and take a few steps toward the field, as if he knew what they had all been talking about on the mound. Michael looked over at Mr. Minya and gave him a look that said, "Don't." Michael got ready to pitch. Justin did his big leaguer pose, fidgeting with his two batting gloves, motioning with his right hand for the umpire to wait while he dug in. When he was ready, he finally looked out at Michael. "He's scared," Michael thought. He would never say this out loud, but he knew exactly why Justin was scared. Because as hard as he throws, I throw harder. Michael went into his high kick windup, ducked his head behind his glove, brought his arm forward as hard as he ever had, and threw the only curveball he was going to throw all season. And not just any curve. Michael threw the kind of big, slow hook that El Grande would throw sometimes, one that seemed to float out to the sky like a frisbee, one that the radar gun would clock at 50 miles an hour sometimes. Justin was a left-hander hitter too. As easy as Michael threw the ball, all Justin saw was the ball coming for his big, fat head, which is why he fell away from it, bat flying out with his hands as if Michael were trying to drill a hole through his helmet. Except that as the ball started to lose altitude, it also started to breaking down, spinning right into Manny's mitt, about belt high, as the umpire held up his right hand and yelled, "Strike!" The Clippers did nothing, not even Manny, who seemed speechless for the first time in his life. It was Justin's teammates who laughed at how silly Michael had made him look. When Justin got back up, Michael could see the back of his uniform full of dirt. He glared at his own bench now, quickly got back into the batter's box, looking as if he wanted to hit the next pitch into the parking lot. "Go ahead," he said to Michael. "Throw that dunk again. See what happens." Michael shook his head like he was shaking off Manny. "Nah," he said. Manny put down one finger, and Michael threw a fastball past Justin. He took a violent cut and missed. Then Michael did it again. "Strike three. Game over." After Michael had gotten high-five from his teammates in the back of the mound, he turned around to see Justin still standing at the home plate. "How old are you, really?" he called out. Michael just stared. "Don't you understand English?" Justin said. "I asked you a question." "I'm 12," Michael said, knowing as he did he shouldn't have been talking to the guy. Justin wouldn't let it go. "What'd he do? Drop a couple of years off the boat over like you guys do?" Manny stepped in now. "Dude," he said, "you're lucky you didn't drop a little something there on strike one." Justin walked away then, as if he wasn't paying any attention, waving them off, not looking back. Michael watched him go, wondering how a kid from Westchester knew anything about his boat ride over, and why he even stinking cared.